Welcome, everybody, Red Gold Generations. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin. This is my dad, Lawrence. We are going to get started today with, of course, we are 8-0. Perfect season on the line. We're going to talk about Legends Corner, Red Gold Chronicles, all the things Chiefs fans love to hear. Let's get into it. First thing we're going to do, as always, we light the candle. If everybody doesn't know what this candle is, it sure smells like a Chiefs win to me. Let's zoom in on this bad boy. There you go. Smells like a Chiefs win. You can get those candles on Etsy, by the way. We're going to light that bad boy up. Smells good.
8-0, baby.
I did not figure that we would be 8-0 by this time of the season. I mean, I thought we would be a good team, and I thought we would be, 6-2, split a couple of games. I wasn't for sure. I thought we would beat one of either the Bengals or the Ravens. I didn't figure we would beat both of them. What are your thoughts about that? Where'd you think we'd sit?
I had my doubts about the Ravens game, and I know it would be a tough thing to do to beat the Ravens regardless of when you play them during the year. The Bengals just haven't been the team that I thought they were going to be, but I don't care who it is, man. Whenever they play the Chiefs, they seem to bring their A-plus game every time to us.
Yeah, I mean, even the Bucs game, which we'll get into, I might have been the most, everybody was saying the Chiefs, I might have been the most frustrated, but the most proud of the Chiefs I have been all season long in that game. And we'll break that down. But it's a playoff type game every single game. Everybody, like you said, brings their A game. I mean, it makes for good football, for sure. Frustrating, nervous, Chiefs fan football.
Your wife texted me and was asking some questions about what my better half wanted for Christmas, and she mentioned that you were wired up after that game, and I told her, yeah. I said, well, apple doesn't fall too far from the tree because it was, I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock by the time I finally calmed down and got to bed. But you use the term resilient. Man, I love that word. They are resilient, and I don't care. They just seem to come through every week. They really do. I love to watch it, but it's hard on me.
Yeah, Nick Wright. Do you ever watch him?
I do.
Of course, he's an analyst, but he is a Chiefs fan through and through, and he doesn't try and hide it, and I love it. He basically goes, I'm frustrated at this game. He goes, I wanted us to beat the Bucs, a hurt Bucs team. And, I took his take on it. I don't disagree with Nick Wright a lot, but I disagree with him on this game. Sometimes things. So the Chiefs played a great game. I think the Bucs had an outstanding game, is what I think. And they were without Chris Godwin. They were without Mike Evans. And I don't know the name of that receiver that was making every catch Baker Mayfield was throwing his way. Did you see some of those catches?
I think that kid's name was Shepard, but yeah, it was. Baker Mayfield he's a great quarterback. He really is, Dustin. He's second in the NFL right now in total yards. He's got like 2,400 yards. So, you're playing one of the premier quarterbacks in the league right now, and he showed it. He really did. He's a good ball player.
Yeah, I mean, when we defensively couldn't make a stand, I don't think that was the defense not necessarily making a stand. I didn't see our defense play bad, right? Coverage was tight. The windows were small. Defense was on there. They were just making, as you would say in like basketball, offense was just better than the defense at that point. Defense played good, but offense was just better. And that last drive when they went down and they tied it up, it was just better offense than defense. And our defense still played good. Man, just when you do everything good against the Chiefs, you just can't win, And of course, the coin toss, right? Did you see all this Baker Mayfield? Oh my gosh, it's over. right? Just leave the stadium. It's over.
Baker Mayfield knew he was not going to touch the ball again. He really did, and you could tell it all over his face. And I felt the same way when we won the toss. I just went, okay, all we got to do is just march down the field, and that looked like the Chiefs' offense right there. There was a few times in that game that they kind of sputtered. Chiefs' offense is looking better every time we come out there. But I know you're going to talk about that a little bit. The defense, they did a good job that night. They held Mayfield 189 yards, I think. Went it 189 yards. Yeah, um, which in my opinion is not too bad for the guy who's number two in the NFL. The defense pulled basically 3 and outs and then 1 4 and out. So half the possessions that the Buccaneers had the whole evening, they didn't get to keep the ball very long. And we dominated that game in time of possession. I think we basically doubled them. So, the defense didn't have to be out on the field a whole lot either. But we didn't get to the quarterback. We didn't force any fumbles, no turnovers at all. We need to get a turnover or two in a ball game. I think that's a huge momentum shift. You see what happens whenever the other team gets the ball from us, even in our stadium. So overall, I was happy with the defense. That last drive that they scored right before the game ended in regulation, 2 plays took up like 40 yards of that. 2 pass plays. And I don't know what defensive back could have stopped either one of them because you're right. That kid, nice catches.
Yeah.
And then you're 3/4 of the way down the field right there.
Good routes, good catches. What did we hold? What did the defense hold them to in rushing? Because they were the number one rushing. They're the number one rushing team in the league. The Bucs are. Well, actually, sorry, number two. Ravens have the number one rushing.
Yeah, I was going to say number one. I thought that the Buccaneers were number two, but they held them to 95 yards, which was, I think, probably the most yards rushing that have been ran against the Chiefs this year, though.
Yeah. I mean, defense still, that's what I'm saying. Defense still played good. They just, the Bucs played good. And I mean, being down those two wide receivers, I did not see that coming. I thought the Chiefs were going to come in and handle the Bucs, handling them. I mean, that's what I thought. I thought this is going to be one of our easier games, which, to Nick Wright's point, he was mainly frustrated that, as he was saying, and I agree with this part, we had to pull out plays that we should have waited until the playoffs for. When we have to go down the field, we can go down the field. And he talked about it. Games are practices for the Kansas City Chiefs. We're always practicing, not pulling out our best plays until we need to. We needed 2 formulated drives in that game, right? We needed the one to go down and take the lead, that long 8-minute drive that we scored a touchdown on. And then, of course, we needed the long overtime drive to win the game. And he's right. When we need to make a play, we make plays. And that's the difference in the Kansas City Chiefs and everybody else right now. When we have to, we can. We're simply practicing for the playoffs.
I agree. The first half, Kareem Hunt had, 10 or 12 yards? I thought at halftime we needed to do some adjustments. You and I talked about that. I just felt like we were going to come out with D-Hop and, I just felt like we were going to kind of blow up the Bucs secondary and have a game passing the ball. But I was obviously wrong. The passing game in spurts, obviously you got Travis and D-Hop looking great. That one catch by D-Hop, unbelievable throw.
My gosh.
Catch between 3 defenders. The guy's he's phenomenal. I am ecstatic about having that guy.
Did you think that was going to be a pick when he threw that ball?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there was no doubt it was going to be picked off. And when I watched that and he came down with that ball, I came up out of my chair as I usually do.
I'm like, so he throws it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, triple coverage. And then I'm seeing the ball coming down. I'm like, that's picked. Dadgummit, that's picked off. And then when it went into because in real time, it just kind of went into that mix and went down. I was like, okay, thank goodness, incomplete pass. And then they were like, catch. And then I saw the replay, And I was like, oh my gosh, he caught that ball. How did he catch that ball? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, that was an absolute dime. Couldn't have been placed any better. And Mahomes is like in the middle of like three guys, 1 foot chucking it in the air, like what was that, 40 some yards?
Unbelievable throw under duress. I mean, I thought he was going to go down. Sorry, that pop up on your screen.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I forgot to plug in my phone, but yeah, he's under duress right there. Throws that ball. 3 defenders are there, and that's the kind of trust I think that he has in DeAndre Hopkins already. He's watched him, he's seen him on film, and just phenomenal. I wanted him so badly to be able to score after that catch, and thankfully he put it in the back of the end zone.
I did too. What other receiver would, and this is where that stood out to me. What other receiver can you think of that would have caught that ball on the Kansas City Chiefs? Let's say the last few years. I can think of 2 receivers. I want to see what you think. That would have came down with that ball with a catch.
Rashee Rice, Travis in the right position. I don't think that he would have been that far down the field, though. That would be
Yeah,
my
I was taking Travis out of it because of course I think Travis will catch anything. All right, so Tyreek Hill was one that I think would have came down with that, right? I didn't put Rashee Rice in that because I don't know, maybe, but that's just not the type of routes he runs. I didn't really even think of Rashee in that. But you remember Demarcus Robinson when we had him? He would have caught something like that. Since then, I don't know of a receiver that Mahomes would even try that to outside of Tyreek and Travis Kelce. And I remember him throwing up balls like that to Demarcus Robinson, but no, he wouldn't have thrown that ball to McCole Hardman. He wouldn't have thrown it to Justin Watson. He wouldn't have thrown it to, I don't think he would have thrown that to Rashee Rice. He absolutely wouldn't have thrown it to Sky Moore. He would not have thrown that ball to Juju. So when you say he trusts D-Hop, he threw that ball, and Mahomes knows what he's doing. He threw that ball going, you are going to, I've got a receiver now. This is your job. Now, loved it.
amazing play, really was. And I don't know, you mentioned Demarcus Robinson. I think he won the game for the Rams on Sunday with a catch.
I saw it. Dalton is he calls him D-Rob. He's a huge D-Rob fan. And I mean, he hated it when Chiefs got rid of DeMarcus. And I did too, but I understood, why. But yeah, I saw that catch too. DeMarcus Robinson got hurt a lot and was out a lot of games. And I mean, that's the kind of receivers we get. We pick them up, they're hurt. We make them play awesome. They win a couple of Super Bowls, and then we let them go on their way. And then we get someone else, D-Hop, Juju Smith-Schuster, some of those things. McCole Hardman, I will shout out McCole Hardman. He gets hurt, he leaves, and he's out for a few games. That's his normal. When he got hurt, I was like, there he goes again. We need you, and you're going to go with this abdomen strain or something. He came back in the game, and I was like, oh, all right. I like to see that.
I do too. I enjoy watching him play. I feel like that he's just a little bit less of a wide receiver than Tyreek Hill in ability. You're right. I think he's been hurt some. I don't know how they're going to work Xavier Worthy into our offensive scheme. I feel like that they've given him a shot a couple times down the field. We missed one to Watson in the Bucs game that should have been 6. That play along the sidelines when we opened that, wasn't that the opening drive that we started that Worthy wasn't paying any attention to where he's at on the field? That kind of stuff come back and bite you in a championship game.
Yeah. Here's what I think how they're going to work in Worthy. He is you better stay honest, because why don't you go look at the Chargers tape? I will rip the top of your defense off with Worthy if you don't stay honest. And Worthy can run down a ball that Justin Watson didn't. I don't know. Justin Watson is really fast, though. That comes into the trust, right? Mahomes is not going to throw that ball short to Worthy or Watson. He doesn't trust him enough. They are going to have to run down a ball. And that's what he's doing. He's protecting that interception for that deep ball. And he's throwing it long, I think, personally, on purpose. Because, how many times did you see Tyreek Hill and he's flying up the field and you see that ball get thrown short? because Mahomes knew that Tyreek Hill was going to go up. He would find the ball and catch it. You're not going to see that. You might see that with D-Hop, but he's not that same tear the top of the defense off. But you're going to have to play two deep safeties on Mahomes still because he will take a shot now. And that's where Worthy comes in. I don't like the jet sweeps to Worthy because he's a small receiver, and I mean, he gets touched and he falls down. Like, two-finger touch. You just see Worthy, he's out. Like, he just gets, and I mean, I'm not nothing bad to Worthy. If I went out there, I would get absolutely destroyed. But I don't know. He's got a lot of yards, but you better make sure that's blocked well if you're gonna throw that to Worthy.
I think when we get 100%, I think we'll see a difference in maybe the scheming with Worthy. I know that just as a rookie, they've got to work him into this team. I know a guy like D-Hop you bring in and he's just instantly ready to go. And we'll see what Hollywood Brown's able to do when he comes back. I would love for him to get back for the playoffs if he can and be healthy. I guess Isaiah's going to be ready in a couple or 3 weeks.
That's what I hear. I mean, if they're not going to rush him if we're sitting at 9-1, 10-1, and I mean, there's just no need to rush him. Not with Kareem Hunt. Although you want Kareem Hunt healthy as well for the playoffs. Imagine a 1-2 punch, Pacheco and Hunt right now. My goodness. The league should be scared.
Yeah, I tell you, hats off to Kareem Hunt. I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. I loved him as a running back when we had him before. He was a kid, made a mistake, and for the Hunt family to be willing to take him back, and then what he's been able to do on the football field, he's backed up what he said he was going to do, and he's just guy's a stud. He really is. That's the only thing about that last time that we touched the ball with 2.5, 3 minutes left. I just did not understand that sequence of running him where they did. I don't know what two running plays were called there, but they stacked him up, and maybe it's because they thought, okay, well, I know we're going to get the ball. Hunt's going to come right up the gut, and we're going to stop him. Wasn't it P. Ryan, though, that missed that? Wasn't that the one that P. Ryan missed the screen pass?
Screen pass on.
Would have sealed the game.
Not sure. Oh, yeah, that was the one that he just missed. Yeah, that's right. It was a good throw. I thought there was one that was behind P. Ryan, but that wasn't the one. That was a catchable ball. I was going to say, though, that during the Raiders game, do you remember the touchdown to Travis Kelce?
Yes.
So if you look at that play, D-Hop goes in, cuts in, and is wide open for a touchdown on that. And that's the exact play that D-Hop scored a touchdown on against the Bucs. So, I mean, and Mahomes called it. He goes, I got him. He showed me some things, like, hey, I was open, and this week we got him the ball. And that was one of those plays. Basically, in the Raiders, they went back and looked on tape, and they said, look, and who's going to, and this is the problem you got. You got a big receiver like D-Hop that knows how to run routes, and he can just go in and catch a ball. What do you got to do? You got to shift over. So now you got Kelce on one side, D-Hop on the other. You got to worry about your jet sweep to I'm talking about like red zone offense. You got to worry about Worthy, jet sweep on the backside. You got to worry about Kareem Hunt. We're going to split you out with two guys that can basically just catch the ball on little slants. You got D-Hop who can go up for the ball. That's why our red zone and our third downs are going to be so much better, and that's why they were so much better in that Bucs game. And that's why I say we played a good game. I thought we played a great game. Bucs just played out of their mind, I think.
Everybody hates the Chiefs. Everybody wants to beat the Chiefs, but you still got to deal with the Chiefs, man. We're still 8-0, and, defense might have bent some. Those statistics they don't like. We didn't do a bad job. Just wish we could have had maybe one turnover. A game that was kind of wet there in the second half. Should have forced a turnover or two, but hey, W's a W, buddy.
Well, it's so helpful to have a good run offense. My question is for Red and Gold Chronicles, do you know who our all-time leading rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs is? Who would you guess?
Jamal Charles.
He is, yeah. Strong work. 1,332 attempts, 7,260 yards. Do you know who the second all-time leading rusher is?
My guess would be Priest Holmes.
Yeah. You know, when I first looked at that, I remember Priest Holmes being an absolute beast. He got hurt so quickly that I didn't think he was going to be on there. You know who I thought of when I was first looking up these stats?
Okoye.
No, Marcus Allen.
Marcus Allen, yeah.
That's who I would have thought, in that run heavy offense of Schottenheimer, Marcus Allen, but he's actually pretty far down on the list. But that's who I thought of.
Well, Marcus didn't come to be a Chief until later in his career, so
he was a Raider. Yeah. I'll tell you who third is. Take a guess.
I don't know.
You remember Larry Johnson?
Larry Johnson, sure do.
He took off. Sorry, you said something. I apologize.
I just watched him play up in Kansas City a couple times when I went to Arrowhead that year that he had over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, he had a couple of good years, and then he got cocky and basically wanted all that money, and Chiefs let him go, and he disappeared from existence. I don't understand these NFL players that are making millions and millions of dollars that just decide, you know what, I'm going to go make a few more $1 million and disappear, Tyreek Hill would have cemented an all-time legacy, all-time wide receiver. He would have led everything if he would have stuck with Patrick Mahomes. He would have led in Super Bowl rings. He would have led, I think, every wide receiver category there ever is. He would have gotten there, I think.
Love to watch Tyreek, but my personal opinion of Tyreek is that money was more important, and he's shown now what he's missing. He knows what he's missing, and Patrick Mahomes could have set records that nobody would have touched. It is what it is.
Well, how about Legends Corner? Who are we going to talk about today?
Well, which leads me into one of the all-time KC Chiefs legends, number 16. And by the way, they retired that number. Our man Dawson, and they called him Lenny the Cool. A very calm presence on that sideline, and he kind of played early in my years of growing up, so I didn't get a chance to watch Lenny play the game like I have some of the other quarterbacks from the Chiefs, because he played from 1963 to 1975 for the Chiefs. And I graduated in 1975. He came out of Purdue, my brother's old alma mater. And take a guess at who one of his assistant coaches was at Purdue University.
Who was Len Dawson's assistant coach?
One of the assistant coaches at Purdue, yeah.
I don't know. Say that again.
Hank Stram was one of the assistant coaches over at Purdue. So I thought that was kind of wild.
That is pretty cool. So Stram was Len Dawson's assistant coach while Len Dawson was playing at Purdue.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, exactly. He was drafted in the first round back in '57, which was my year of birth. So ways back, but he was drafted by the Steelers in '57 and didn't really play much at all. I think he got picked up by the Browns, traded to the Browns, and started playing more as a starter as a Dallas Texan in 1962. Well, in 1962, that was the last year of the Dallas Texans, and he became a Kansas City Chief in 1963. Everybody talks about him having control of that offensive team, and he's the one famous for the choir huddle, they call it, where he's here, and then all of his guys are facing him like that. They did what's the word I'm looking for? They did. I can't think of it.
When Mahomes paid tribute to him and
Yeah.
did that. That was
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
it was. Well, some of his accolades, and this kid Mahomes, we'll see how many he walks off into history. But Len didn't do a bad job either. 7 times he was completion percentage leader, 6 times passing ratio leader, 4 times he was the touchdown leader in the old league. In 4 seasons of that, he had at least 25. I think it was 25 touchdown passes. So did a great job. The
Big deal
first,
back then.
yeah, exactly. First Super Bowl he played in was in 1966. The Chiefs lost that game to the Packers pretty badly. But do you know what he was famous for in that first Super Bowl? Remember the picture of him sitting on the sidelines?
Oh, that's right. Smoking that cigarette.
Yeah, that's halftime. That's halftime at the Super Bowl, and that's an iconic picture. Hey, this one I remember well because I was a eighth grader in school or a freshman, one or the other. 1970, the Chiefs won Super Bowl IV, and they beat a heavily favored Minnesota Viking team. And I was one of those few kids, for some reason, in Southwest Missouri that was cheering for the Chiefs, which I didn't understand, but yeah, we whooped up on him, and he had a heck of a game. He was MVP of Super Bowl IV, 12 for 17. He threw a 42-yarder to a guy by the name of Otis Taylor.
Otis Taylor. I would have guessed that. He leads a lot of statistics still.
That was the last game that was ever played as the old AFL. The AFL went away that year, so Super Bowl IV was. He played 19 seasons as a pro. He was the AFL. They had a little bit different setup then, but he was an All Star 6 times, and then he was a Pro Bowler when they merged.
Nice.
Won Walter Payton Man of the Year in 1973. Some of these records are probably still number one with the Chiefs. I didn't get a chance to check on that because I don't know where Mahomes is right now, but I do know that he got 30,000 yards. But Lenny wound up with 239 touchdowns in his career, 28,711 passing yards. Hall of Fame in 1975. You probably remember him as a broadcaster. He was a sports broadcaster for 40 years. Did a great job. He hosted that HBO's Inside the NFL. I didn't watch that show much, but I remember, it being on there. And then, of course, man lived to be ripe old age of 1987. Passed away in 2022. So, like I say, they put his jersey to rest. He won't wear 16 as a Kansas City Chief, and just an awesome ball player. Guys loved him on the field. He's our legend that we're talking about today.
And what a legend he is. I was just looking at the all-time passing statistics here because I had it pulled up for the rushing. Mahomes is still yet to beat him in touchdowns, but he's 7 touchdowns behind him. According to this, I don't know if the 3 is counted into this, but it shows on here that Mahomes has 230 touchdowns and Len Dawson has 237. Mahomes is the leader in passing yards. Yeah, he leads just about everything else. He's almost just right behind him in touchdown passes. But I mean, in a huge run heavy offense, what Len Dawson did was incredible.
It was amazing what he did because, Hank Stram's famous saying was, we're going to matriculate down the field. And that's exactly what they did. I loved watching him play. I remember watching him play. It was just my early high school years. So I was involved in playing football myself back then. So I kind of compared myself to Len Dawson a little bit back then and Roman Gabriel. I wanted to be a QB, but here again, I wasn't big enough. So I got to play defense. That's why I usually talk about defense on this podcast because I love putting the hurt on people rather than getting hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I never watched Len Dawson play, of course, but I mean, growing up, if you hear about the Chiefs, you're hearing about Len Dawson. So I knew who he was in some capacity all through my early years as a Chiefs fan. I mean, it was always something Len Dawson, something Len Dawson. So, I mean, I always remember hearing his name. Yeah, so this was cool. Didn't know most of what you talked about. So that was very cool. Legend.
Back in the good old days.
Right. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you probably next week. Of course, we take on the Broncos, who don't have a bad team. So I'm sure Andy Reid is not going to take them lightly. But I know Spags is going to dial up some stuff on Bo Nix. And I have a feeling that Bo Nix, who has been having good games, is going to have an absolutely terrible game, because that's what Spags does to young quarterbacks. He confuses them. And look at what happened to Brock Purdy. And I think the same thing's going to happen. Their defense is really good. It's going to be a very low-scoring game, is my prediction.
I agree with you. Denver's got a very good defense. I still think that we're just kind of sweetening things up for a run later. I would love to see us do a little bit more concise passing, but I think the Chiefs can score on the Denver defense, and I feel like we'll put 3 or 4 touchdowns up against them. I don't think the Broncos are going to score much against us, so I feel that 31, 34, I don't know, 14-17 range. We'll see.
Well, I actually have a question before your phone dies. Let's see if we can get it in.
Okay.
What are your thoughts around us going undefeated?
I think the biggest challenge we're going to face are the Buffalo Bills in a couple of weeks. I hate to, I don't want to put the Denver Broncos down, because any given Sunday, any team can whoop you. I just don't see us getting whooped by anybody. But the Buffalo Bills have been looking really good. So that might be loss number one. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we beat the Buffalo Bills, because I think that will put us 2 games up ahead in the AFC for the number 1 seed. So I think we will handle our business in Buffalo. I think we will make that an absolute priority game. Not that all of them aren't, but no, we're not going to go undefeated. And I think it's because we're going to be 14-2, or 14-1 by the end of the season. I think we're going to have the number 1 seed wrapped up, and we are not going to play our starters in the last couple of games of this season. We're not going to do it. We're going to rest everybody because we want the three-peat. We will not go undefeated. Andy Reid will not chase that undefeated season. I don't think the team will chase that undefeated season. I think they will all want the three-peat, and I think we rest all of our starters the last couple of games, because we need to be fresh, healthy going into the playoffs.
Agree 100%. Yeah, if we're still 13-1, 14-1, yeah, they're not going to see the field. Andy's not. That's not important to him. That three-peat, it's important to everybody that puts on that jersey, and I think we're going to get it. I really do.
Yep. Go Chiefs! All right.